Well, the Miami Heat won on Wednesday night against the Chicago Bulls, setting up another play-in game Friday evening in Atlanta against the Hawks. The Heat are actually favorites in this game by 1.5 points. The over-under is 218.5. I am Nic Rohloff. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. We are going to do a preview of this game. But make sure you are subscribed and make sure you join us for our watch party. We were live for Heat versus Bulls in the play-in. It was a lot of fun. Shout out Jesus Batista. We'll be live once again Friday evening. We'll be live 30 minutes before the game, so 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Central Time. So make sure you join us. This is the thumbnail, so if you see it on YouTube, it means we're live. Click it and join us. I think it's important to look back at what happened between Atlanta and Miami during the regular season series. Unlike the Heat Bulls matchup, this one was much more even. Chicago swept Miami in the regular season and then obviously got blown out on Wednesday night. The Heat and Hawks have split the season series, both teams winning at home. The first two games of the year were in Atlanta. Hawks won both of those games. Last two of the season were in Miami. Heat won both of those games. And I think it's interesting to see that each game was decided by double-digit points or more. A big-time win by the Hawks, a big-time win by the Hawks, and then two big wins by the Miami Heat. Let's get into the injury report now because this is where things stand. Not too many injuries each side here, but Kevin Love and Nikola Jovic are the only two players banged up for Miami, but Kevin Love isn't even banged up. He's just reconditioning, but he's not in the rotation anyway, so it does not matter. Nikola Jovic was actually questionable for the game against the Bulls on Wednesday, did not play. I'm curious to see if he will be available on Friday night against the Hawks, and if he will actually play, if he is available, considering the fact that he was a large member of the rotation for the Heat when he was healthy, but hasn't played in 5 weeks, so are they going to thrush him in here in a big-time game? For the Hawks, Clint Capela and Larry Nance. Larry Nance in the injury, he's likely out. Capela will be a game-time decision, also dealing with a hand injury. All right, let's get into some keys to victory for Miami now. We got to limit the offensive rebounds. If you want the Heat to win, this is a big key to the game because the Hawks are a team that crashes the glass and tries to capitalize on second-chance opportunities, and the Miami Heat have to be very cautious and aware of that. When you look at the Hawks this season, they have a 30% offensive rebound rate. That was the 13th best rate in the NBA. So whether it is Capela if he's healthy, Onyeka Okongwu, and Muhammad Gay, Zachary Sachet, they try to create second-chance opportunities. Now, if you are a Heat fan looking to win this game, you might actually be happy about this because this is a strength of the Miami Heat. I know a lot of people are always complaining about not getting enough rebounds, but this year at least, the Heat have only allowed a 27.6% offensive rebound rate to their opponents, which is actually the fourth best rate in the NBA. So with those two big men inside, Kel'el Ware and Bam Adebayo, they have done an excellent job at limiting opponents on offensive glass and second chance opportunities. But this is an intriguing thing to note here. When the Heat and Hawks played 4 times this season, they actually split the rebounding battle. It was 2-2 in the season series. So it's not like there has been a clear advantage for Miami in the rebounding battle or clear advantage to the Hawks in a rebounding battle. And by the way, when I looked at the numbers, each game, the rebounding battle was decided by like 2 or 3 rebounds, so it was close even in those games that they ended up winning respectively. I will move over to more keys to victories here in just a second. But who you got? Type MIA for the Miami Heat. Type ATL for the Atlanta Hawks. Let me know who you think ultimately becomes the 8th seed and plays the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Second key to victory for Miami, you have to light them up from 3. And we talked about the three-point battle being such a big part of the game on Wednesday against the Chicago Bulls that he ended up winning that three-point battle. And guess what? They won the game. And on the season, the Heat have been a top half three-point shooting team in the NBA. They actually get 37.2% of their points via the three-point shot. That was the 10th highest rate in the NBA this season. And they shoot 36.8% from 3 in the regular season, which is 13th in the NBA. But the reason why this is going to be something to monitor for Miami is because the Hawks are actually one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA in terms of defending the three-point shot. They gave up a 37.7 three-point percentage this past year. That was 28th in the NBA. And this is a contrast to the Chicago Bulls, who we just played on Wednesday, who were the second best team in the NBA in their defensive mark against three-point shooting. So you go from playing the second best defensive team on threes in the year to the third worst, 28th overall. And against the Bulls, who only allowed you opponents to shoot 34% from three this year, the Heat actually shot 13 of 35, which was 37.1%. And if you look at those shooting numbers, a lot of it came in the first half where the Heat were shooting 55, 59% from the field and a mid 40% from three. The Heat's offense trailed off in the second half, only scoring 38 points. That can't happen again on Friday if the Heat want to beat the Hawks. But the way they played offensively against Chicago on Wednesday should give you a lot of positivity and encouragement for the game against the Hawks on Friday evening. We got two more keys to victory in my official prediction, but we got to give a shout out to the official ticketing sponsor and partner of the Heat Report by Chat Sports. That is Game Time. And if the Heat win this game, you'll see two NBA playoff games in Miami for the Heat. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA playoff tickets. They have last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy shows, theaters. It does not matter. They have so many other great features. All-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows you the total price of your ticket up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And they show you a full panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you never are confused on what your vantage point will be. There will be no pole, stanchion, or board in your way. You can go see a Heat playoff game if they win Friday, or you can go see a concert in the local Miami area or your local area, wherever you're watching from. Chris Brown and Lady Gaga come to Miami this summer. Go hang out and watch them perform. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. This is going to be a key to victory for Miami every single game because they truly perform as this statistic goes. The Heat, again, simply can't turn the ball over because this is something that hinders them offensively and hinders anybody offensively when you just don't even get shots up and you're giving your opponents fast break opportunities. But this is the part of the game where Miami really needs to hone in on. And I think they did a relatively good job against Chicago on Wednesday. They had 15 turnovers against the Bulls, slightly higher than their season average, which was 13.6 per game, which was the ninth best rate in the NBA, by the way. But why is this key again like it was against the Chicago Bulls? Well, it's because the Hawks' arguably biggest strength as a basketball team is getting out in transition and forcing turnovers. This season, Atlanta had the fifth most points per game off turnovers, 19.1. And they also forced the third most turnovers per game as well, with 16.0 turnovers per game for their opponents. So Dyson Daniels, Zachary Sachet, even Trae Young a little bit. They force you into tough situations, tough passes. They read you on the perimeter. They create steals and get out in transition and score off your mistakes. It is how the Hawks offense thrives and how they were able to put together a better season than Miami in the regular season. And when you look at these two matchups, most of the metrics actually favor Miami in terms of the coaching battle, the points per game, the three-point shooting, the points in the paint, the turnovers. Most of it does. So the only way, in my opinion, that the Heat actually lose to the Atlanta Hawks is if Atlanta just turns over Miami on the road. The Heat have 20-plus turnovers, and the Hawks are out and running, getting easy looks in transition and getting an extra 25, 30 points because the Heat turn the ball over. So if the Heat are able to limit their turnovers, I'd say 15 or lower is the mark you want to try to get at. You go 14 or lower, let's say 14 is the number. I think the Heat will have a really good shot at winning this game. But you also have to be ready to defend the pick and roll. This is something that I know Eric Spoelstra and his coaching staff will be looking at today. They probably looked at it last night after they beat the Bulls and looked at it on the team plane because the Hawks absolutely spam the pick and roll. Atlanta had a 7.5% frequency of hitting the pick and roll and hitting the roll men, whether it's Clint Capela, Onyeka Okongwu. That 7.5% frequency was the highest rate in the NBA, and that big man in the pick and roll scored 9.8 points per game, whether it's Okongwu or Capela. That was also first in the association this year. So you might ask, why are the big men of the Hawks such good as roll men? Well, it's because most teams against the Hawks in the pick and roll blitz Trae Young. They don't want him coming off that pick and roll into a step up three or getting downhill into a little 8-foot floater. So you see a lot of the teams that play Atlanta blitz Young, force the ball out of his hands because he's the true only guy that concerns me offensively for Atlanta. And I would expect Miami to do most of that again. But if you are going to blitz Trae Young and double him on the pick and roll so he can't beat you, you have to have your backline defense ready to pick up the roll man, rotate to the baseline so the dunker spot doesn't have an easy layup, but also get back in the rotation to defend a corner three shot for Muhammad Gay or Risa Shea. They get a lot of their three-pointers from there. So the Heat have to be prepared defensively on what their game plan is to guard Trae in the pick and roll, but also be ready to rotate once the roll man gets the ball free throw line down in that pick and roll situation. All right, so those are my 4 keys to victory. I'm going to get my prediction for the Heat-Hawks game here just in 1 second. But before I do, predict the score of Heat-Hawks down in the comments section. Let me know what you guys think the final ultimately is. I picked the Heat to lose to the Bulls on Wednesday because I thought the Bulls just had a better matchup against Miami. I will not be doing that here today. I think the Heat ultimately beat the Hawks by 8 points on the road, 117-109. You saw the Heat clicking on all cylinders offensively Wednesday, and although the Bulls are not a good defensive team, and the Hawks are a middle-of-the-pack defensive team, but they do force turnovers, I think the Heat will be able to do enough. I'm also just not concerned about the Hawks offensively outside of Trae Young. I'm not. And the Heat have historically had excellent numbers against Trae Young in the play-in, in the playoffs. If they're able to limit Trae, which I believe they will be able to do, I think they win this game by double digits or just under double digits, which is why I think a 117-109 is the final, which would set up a 1-8 Heat Cavaliers first-round Eastern Conference playoff series, which would be a fascinating one, but we're not going to get ahead of ourselves today. All right, make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you have those notifications turned on because, well, we're going to go live for this game against the Hawks. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have those notifications turned on. Remember, if you see this thumbnail, that is what we're going to be live. And make sure you click on it. You join us. We also have videos in between. So hit that sub button for the best Heat content on YouTube.